Okay, so here we are. Here is the bad boy himself. You can see how nicely squared and how he looks from above there. Now, I'm going to talk you through this build very briefly like this with the camera. And I'm going to show you a little bit of a slideshow of the stages, just so you can see what I did. I haven't really figured out how to record myself physically doing things yet. I shall work on it with the next build. But anyway, so absolute stage one with the bodywork on this was what I chose to do. And I had a C14 front end, in fact a whole kit, and a C24 back end. So about 2 weeks before I saw the announcement for the new WPL kit, which is basically this, I invented one out here in my lean-to. Very first stage of the body preparation before you do anything, I would suggest you give it all a nice wash with warm soapy water, just to remove any residue that may have been left on there during the moulding process and your grubby fingerprints. Because if you have happened to have sort of had a bacon sarnie at some stage, then when you prime it you will see the paint not taking there. So give it a good wash, let it get dry, and then I've spray painted it with primer. And I always use, pretty much for everything, plastic coat white primer. I use it on cars, real cars, I use it on little cars, plastic, metal, wood. It provides a really tough surface. The one thing you need to do with this is make sure it dries and goes off. Leave it time to dry. So the whole thing's been primed white, couple of coats, so it's all got a nice even coating. The stripes on this are actually still the primer, because what I've done here is then, once it's all been primed, I've masked off to put on the blue stripes. Then once they've dried, I've masked over the blue stripes and masked the tape with tape to put on the silver stripes. Once all that is properly dried, I've masked off the whole stripe, and I did the front cab first, I did the bed afterwards completely separately, and then got on with the rest of the painting. So the stripes actually went on here first pretty much. The other thing I did at a very early stage, I was aware that these number decals with the white background, they would really show through the colour from behind. They're quite thin, quite transparent is probably the best way of putting it. So I was trying to think, have I got a compass? What am I going to do? And as luck would have it, and this reoccurred in this build, as I'll tell you, I thought, what can I do? And a penny, an English penny, British penny, fits exactly over that decal. So I used that to cut out some masking tape, made myself a masking tape penny, stuck those over the primer where I wanted the decals to go later, and left them on there pretty much for the rest of the build. You can see it's a little bit tatty here. I'll tidy it up one day, but no build is going to be 100% perfect. Not mine anyway. Right, so we got the stripes on. We put on the orange paint next. Now, all of the painting on this build was done with these 3 paint brushes right here. So this is the one for the main colours. This is the one for putting on an extra coat, maybe a little bit more locally, or doing a little bit of detailed work. And this is the one we used right here. And by that I mean around the windows, getting in the seam lines, although I also have cheated here. Some of these have been put on with a 0.2mm pen, an art pen. The bed and the bonnet and some other parts of the truck are painted black, only they're not painted black. They are painted anthracite, which is 36109 of the Rebel colour range. It's nearly black. Originally I used this paint to do tyres on model trucks like Opel Blitzes and stuff, because black is too black on tiny 1/72 and smaller scale stuff. The big advantage of using that is if that's the only black you've got, it's going to look black to anyone that looks like it. If you've actually painted it matte black, what are you going to shade that with? You can't get darker than black. So by using that, if I wanted to, and I didn't really decide until the end of the build whether I was going to weather this or how much shading I was going to do on it. If I wanted to actually do shading and a bit more detailing on this, I'd need something to shade this with. And if it's already black, I can't really do it. Anyway, anthracite, I love it. It's a nice matte colour. It does have a kind of a sheen to it. That's one of my little secrets. Right, onwards. Down this side, we've got a mixture of water slide decals, which are from a remade Scalextric slot car decal set. The number 5s are from a generic racing decal pack, and then the rest of here are all from a Traxxas pack that I just got from a modelling store basically. So I just found the ones that would be appropriate. And by appropriate, I mean I've tried to keep to the same colours. So we've got blue, blue, blue. We've got red kind of running through it here, there and everywhere. The silver. These wheels have ended up on it. They only just arrived. They're JJRC from the Q65. They fit it very nicely. We haven't run them on those wheels yet, but they do seem to fit. And again, the colour, I've done nothing to these wheels yet. Silver, silver, silver. Very basic in the end. I've not done any weathering because it just looked really nice. And I thought, well, one can look nice. We'll get onto that another day. And then it comes, obviously, you're all thinking, what are these things here? The flares, they are... I was thinking, I noticed on the base one, the red standard one we're keeping completely stock, the back wheels especially, were hitting the wheel arches before the springs had fully compressed. So there was obviously more flex to be got from that. So I got the Dremel out and cut the arches off. You do get all this fluffy stuff. It's very easy to break off the body to tidy it up. It's kind of a combination of melting and cutting the plastic basically. But just straight around there with the Dremel. And here is my Dremel. And this cutting disc, that was a plastic cup if you heard that falling. That's no problem. The Dremel with this cutting disc is just literally straight round. No problem. Anyway. So then I thought, well, what am I going to do now? And I left it sitting around. And I look at it and I think about it, and I look at it and think about it, and I thought, yeah, flared arches. So what could we make flared arches out of? And I thought, oh, I'll get some aluminium. So I went out to the recycling, and my son, my teenage son, had left some of these in there, these Red Bull cans. So I thought, okay, I've got some aluminium. And then I thought, well, how big do these need to be? And then I noticed, miraculously, that these were pretty much the same size as my cigarette paper packet in terms of covering the wheel arch, how far I wanted to get out. So I could use that as a basic cardboard template that then evolved into this cardboard template, including the sides and a little bit of a curve cut in just by eye of where we're going to mount it down under the wheel arches. And I'll show you that when I've taken the body apart. And then the final stage template wise was this one right here, which allowed a little bit of extra metal here, because what we've actually done is fold them back under themselves and then insert inside an extra strip cut to fit. So that's laminated, and that's why they are so strong. They are not like cosmetic, they are not flimsy. They're going to stay there. They might get a bit dent and a bit more scratched up over time. That would just look cooler as far as I'm concerned. I can repair them as and when. And to be honest, if I was just building, and I have prepared competition cars, if I just needed to get wider arches on a car, I'd cut the arches off and I'd find some sheet metal and get it on there in a scrutineering compliant manner. So we'll assume this is. To get the aluminium, you have your can right here. Now what I found was my template matched up. This is an adjusted template for the front, but basically the template fitted exactly over the logo. And then I realised that with the whips I wanted, I'd get that whole logo and that whole logo. And I let the recycling take charge of the project from there. The front arches are made from the smaller Red Bull can to get a smaller logo. But that was pretty much it. I just let that guide me the rest of the way. Now in terms of the actual construction, the material that you get, this sheet aluminium, it's obviously very curved. When you get it off the can, it will just go back to can shaped. You put it down the other way, you put a magazine underneath it, and you get the iron on its hottest setting, no steam, and just iron it for about 3 or 4 minutes, and it will get reasonably flat. It's still got a bit of a curl to it, but once you start working it, that last bit will go, basically. Very easy to work with. If you need to cut it, you just get some scissors and you cut it, and you can cut very detailed little bits in there. We'll look at this more in the future, because on a future build I'm going to need to have this kind of a construction, but much more blended in and curved. So it's going to be a slightly different thing. Anyway, I'm not going to take the body apart now because I'm conscious of how long the video is. The other detail I didn't mention are the mud flaps, which are made of bits of mouse mat, an old tiny mouse mat that came in some kind of set. Just cut to size. I've stenciled on the Dadex on there, just so no one forgets who made it, and use some of the decals and stuff on the rear The lights I painted just the matte colours as appropriate on the back of the clear plastic, and then framed it in the black. It looks okay, it's not perfect, you could do a bit of a tidying up. In terms of fixing the fenders onto the truck, they're literally glued on by the tabs built into the template around the wheel arches. I painted underneath the anthracite just to mask it in. I probably will, next time I'm painting, paint the inside of the metal black anthracite as well. See, I said black, it is my black. And that's about it, really. A quick slideshow of the construction here. I've used a really liquid super glue and I've just clamped them on while that's drying. I misinformed you earlier, I did the front after the back. There's the stripes masked off and done and the painting going on. So you can kind of see the stages. There's my decal sheet in the background. Good old fashioned metal ruler to keep everything straight and true as we're transferring the stripes onto the back of the bed. And the interior's had a basic little paint. Always got to check the old stance during the build. It's looking pretty good so far anyway. So there's the mud flaps glued on. You can see everything's just setting and drying nicely. The interior I've then blinged up a little bit. I've split the seats like that so it looked a bit like more a pair of seats. Thought about cutting the seats out the MN96, but that's maybe for another project. The steering wheel, I drilled out some holes and painted it so it looked a bit more like a racing steering wheel. And the instrument panel is done from the leftover decals in a Luftwaffe instrument panel decal set. I'd also like to point out, having watched the first bit of the footage, this stuff over here is just black plastic from where I used the Dremel to cut those silly corners off the MN96 crate. Nothing else, Liam. So we've taken it out to the stream that runs in a gully in a field across the street from the house. It's very wet, there's little islands for us to stand on and we couldn't run it too much, but as you can see, it gets across the gravelly riverbed and there's quite a bit of water moving through here actually, and we haven't weighted this kit at all yet. We haven't waterproofed it either, so we're being a little bit careful, but as you can see it's doing quite a nice job of getting through here. Some of it gets very wet very quickly, but you can pick your way through. We'll certainly get some more run videos done for you guys, but we just wanted to grab this bit while we could. And I was actually sinking as we were filming this. There you go for my art. But he's looking good so far. Okay, Hilux. We're going to have to stage this a little bit. Sink or swim. Go. The mud here is really, really wet. Come on. Yeah. Come on, can we get through here? And we'll leave it there for now, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the video. The next one we'll look at the insides, what we've done mechanically, and also both of the C24s and what maintenance they need and how we're doing preventative maintenance, etc. So we'll see you very soon for that. So leave us a like if you liked it. Any questions, please leave them down below. And subscribe if you want to know when the next video's up. I've got another build underway already, but you'll have to wait for the next video for a sneak preview of that. For now, bye bye.